Hello my friends, I hope you're having an awesome day today, and welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge, where you come to get your daily dose of satisfaction by listening to other people getting what they deserve. Guys, in this episode there's going to be 3 stories. The first is OP getting some pro-revenge on his creepy neighbor. In the second story, OP goes on the hunt to find their stolen dog. And we'll finish off with an annoying neighbor who keeps reporting OP for excessive noise. I hope you stay for the stories today, and hit that subscribe button for future videos. This first story is by user Mealwyrm. I started renting a house about 5 years ago. I had always lived in apartments, and I was excited to finally have some space and privacy. This was ruined within the first week by my neighbor, and he made my 4 years at that house miserable. He's in his late 40s or early 50s, and despite seeming like a fully functional adult, he has never lived outside of his parents' home. He spends every possible minute cleaning or admiring his truck, so he practically lives in the driveway. When he isn't bragging about some stupid accomplishment that he just pulled on someone, he's hitting on the wives and daughters of anyone who's on the street. I moved in during the winter, and started noticing footsteps in my yard in the morning. I found out that he was walking into my yard to look into my windows to see what I was watching or playing at night. I bought a simple security system and put a few cameras up, and this stopped. Then, he started mowing my side yard. He would mow it the day after I did. I asked my landlord about this and was told that Mike, the creepy neighbor, considered it his property and kept arguing about the property line. It's just grass, so I let it go. If I had guests over, he would stare at them and sometimes make comments when I wasn't around to hear them. If I was in the backyard, he would have a reason to be in his backyard. If I was in the house or the front yard, he would be in his driveway where he could see into my living room. If I was mowing the yard, he would get out a lawn chair and sit and watch, putting it away as soon as I was done. It came to a head when I caught him sending his dog into my front yard one morning to do its business, instead of letting it out into his fenced backyard like he normally would. I told him to stay on his side of the property line, and he said he was gonna break into my house, smash my cameras and computer. The cops were called, and he got off with a warning. Last fall, I told my landlord that I was gonna move out. During the conversation, I found out that Mike was on workers' compensation for an injury that he got at work. He was now bragging about how he was using his workers' comp checks to set up his own under-the-table landscaping business. My landlord, like most of the neighborhood, doesn't really like Mike. The landlord's son and family live across the street, and Mike has hit on his wife a few times over the years, and has started to try to talk to their 17-year-old daughter. I waited for a day when he had his new work truck and trailer, with his name and number on the door, and I made a video of him working on his yard and carrying 50 bags of mulch and climbing ladders. I sent videos and pictures to the fraud department of the workers' compensation office. And today, I just found out that he was guilty of fraud. He's ordered to pay back every dollar and may even end up in jail. And the best part is, he's got no idea that I was behind this. I'm happily living in a new place that has a lot of land between me and the neighbors. Definitely a pro-revenge, OP. I wonder what his obsession with you was. This next story is by user punk-rock-vixon. So, it all started on Sunday, May 26th. I was flying back home from Texas, where I was at my girlfriend's sister's wedding. We had a layover in Vegas before a 1-hour flight back to Sacramento, and I land in Vegas and I get reception. And that's when my roommates call me and tell me how the door to our backyard gate was busted open and my beautiful husky wolf mix was missing. That dog is everything to me. She's 3 years old now, and I've had her since she was 2 months old. She's been with me through breakups, layoffs, and my evictions. Anyways, she's gone, and I get home to start doing the usual, putting up flyers and notifying every shelter, vet, and her chip company of her disappearance. I put notices on every lost and found page, and suddenly, it starts to go viral on Facebook. A lot of people really wanted to help me find my dog, and I had eyes everywhere. I wake up one day to find a Craigslist ad with a picture of an unknown girl hugging my dog with the ad titled, "Found Husky," sent to me by a friend of mine, so I contacted the ad maker. The lady was nice and explained how she did not find my dog, but a friend of hers on Instagram found her. She watched her post pictures on IG and brag about how the universe had brought me this big, beautiful dog. The lady sent me screenshots of her Instagram and all the pictures she posted of my dog. She then tells me, I don't know her personally, but she's a fellow escort. It turns out, the girl who has my dog is an escort. So the lady helps out and messaged the girl to tell her that she found the owner of the dog, and she fully deletes all the posts of my dog and blocks the lady. So I think, alright, this is already viral, so game on. I get all the people who have been searching, including my detective aunt, and we make a hunt. I file a police report, and they're down to bust the chick, but have to find out where she is and where she's holding my dog for them to do anything, which is pretty useless. I get people to start contacting one another, and we found her legal name and all the addresses she's tied to, including her boyfriend, dad, and possibly stepmom's info. We even found out that she was wanted for 2 warrants. She was charged with petty theft and hit and run involving property damage. After I found that info, including her being an escort, which is illegal where I'm from, we had her. I dug up all of her info, including emails and phone numbers, with her escort phone number. So I call this woman to confront her, and she starts yelling at me about how I'm harassing and threatening her and how she was going to press charges on me. She then said that she brought my dog to a shelter 2 days prior. I confirmed that wasn't true. Meanwhile, I'm gathering all the proof I have that this dog is mine, which is 3 years of time-stamped photos with me, and the chip information that my dog's registered with, and her being in my name with the chip company. She's told this and still refuses to give her back, saying, I'm afraid to give the dog back because the owner is threatening me. So now, she's on blast on Facebook, Instagram, and Reddit as well. I'll provide more edits later. Update. So, I'm not sure what more I can really do. The court fees to even try to get her is gonna break my bank, and I already spent over $1,000 trying to find my dog. I'm not sure what to do besides blast her, and hope it ends up on every news station and radio station in the Sacramento region. Update again. Oh boy, so check this out. The girl that stole my dog was with another girl when they found my dog, and boy does the plot thicken. They are both escorts, so the girl that stole my dog was a blonde thief, and the girl she was with was red-haired thief. Blonde thief left for San Francisco to work. She came back early to find red-haired thief was sleeping with blonde-haired thief's boyfriend, and it gets better. Red-haired thief beat blonde-haired thief's ass, which involved the cops and a police report, and the boyfriend was taken to jail for domestic violence, and so did red-haired thief. Now that it's public record, I looked up the incident. Sadly, there was no house address when I looked it up, so I'll keep you updated. Final update. The red-haired thief contacted me and told me that the blonde-haired thief took my dog to her dad's house. So I went detective and looked up who her dad is. I got his legal name, Facebook, and phone number. I get a car with a beefy friend of mine, and I drive 1 hour to Valley Springs where her dad lives. We pull up to the property, and there's my dog running up to the fence to greet me. I open up the gate and she tackles me, and I put her in the car and call the cops. They arrive and do their best to get him to answer the door, but the police chalk it up to him not being home. They take my statement and I explain everything, down to each fine detail, including the escort in question having a record. They said they'll be catching her, and I'll be pressing charges for animal endangerment and grand theft. She'll also be adding a 3rd warrant on her record. I'm so glad it's over, and my dog is so happy to see me again every day. That escort was pretty ballsy to break a gate to kidnap a dog. I'm glad the dog was returned after all of this. Oh yeah, and here's a beautiful picture of that dog that OP posted. This last story is by user Rusticular. Just to clarify, in the particular city I was living in at the time, noise control can be called out at any time of the day. So this all happened about 15 years ago, give or take, when I was still a kid living at home. We had a house with a huge backyard in the suburbs. The neighboring property next to our driveway was a set of 3 attached rental flats, each with their front door facing our house. We were usually good friends with most of the neighbors, the flats next door included. After the family in the middle flat left, an older single woman moved in. She was home more often than not, so I doubt she had a job, and she wasn't particularly friendly. She kept to herself, which is fine, and never really acknowledged any of the neighbors, but whatever, that's cool. So one Saturday around midday, I was out back with the lawnmower. earning myself some pocket money. It was a big yard, so about 20 minutes in, I was only about halfway done, and suddenly, an officer knocks on the door. He tells me to hurry it up, and that they'd received a complaint. And though they thought it was ridiculous, they had to say something. It's a bit stupid, but whatever. Now, we weren't allowed family at all. Not at all. No parties, no screaming, or anything like that. Over the next month, we kept getting visits from noise control. Always during the day, mind you. We would get visits for mowing lawns, and even had a couple of complaints when my younger sister and I were hanging out in the backyard on the weekends. Again, we weren't all that loud. At the time, I would have been about 13, so more often than not, the boy next door and I would just be chilling on the swings, just talking. Now, we'd never had an issue with noise. None of our neighbors ever had a problem. We'd never had noise control called before now, so we asked around. It was fairly obvious at this point that the snobby cow that had moved into the flat next door was doing all of the complaining. My father would always stock up firewood in the summer to prepare for winter, and would have to chop it up himself. It's the first weekend of chopping for the year, and it's 2 p.m. on a Saturday. He pulls out his old chainsaw, and it's on for about a minute and a half at most, before he realizes his chain needs to be replaced. He turns it off, grabs the axe, and proceeds to chop the wood the long way. The next thing we know, noise control shows up. The officers are sick of having to visit at this point, and were pretty friendly with the dad by now. It turns out that yes, it was the new neighbor next door. It turned out that she'd been an issue for them for a while, and that noise control was well aware of her stupid complaints from her previous addresses. Unfortunately, they were legally obligated to follow through with them. The next weekend, surprise, surprise, we get a visit after Dad's been chopping some more wood, with an axe. At this point, he decides, why not give her something to actually complain about? So a family friend of ours happened to be a truck driver. He drives a big rig, almost Optimus Prime level, up and down the country. He also happened to be back in town that weekend. We give him a ring and he's keen to help us out. The next step is to warn all the other neighbors who were fully on board, because as it turns out, we weren't the only ones she was complaining about. Proceed to next weekend about 9 a.m. We spend about half an hour getting this big rig truck down our driveway. It was a pretty wide driveway, but it was a pretty wide truck too, so it was a damn tight squeeze. Now, having been good friends with the previous neighbors, we were familiar with the internal layout of the flats. The bedrooms were directly next to their front doors, facing our driveway. We managed to get the cab of this massive truck far enough into the driveway to be directly next to this lady's bedroom. There's about 1.5 meters separating the truck and her wall. Perfect. On goes the horn, loud as hell. It terrifies our cats. On it goes again, and again, and again. And then, us kids get a turn. You could hear that thing about a block away. We did it for about 10 minutes, then go inside for a coffee, and come back out, and run the horn one more time for good measure, before our friend takes off. This time, there were no noise control officers, no complaints, nothing. She just moved out the next week. Hey, that's one way to get rid of a pesky neighbor. I'm surprised the noise control police actually responded during the day. I wonder what area OP lives in that allows noise complaints during the day, because where I live, anything pretty much goes until 11 p.m. And that's it for today's episode of r/ProRevenge. If you guys aren't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future stories, and I'll see you guys in the next one.